You're listening to BMRF Radio. We interrupt this program to bring you a special news report. Unknown atmospheric phenomena have been reported throughout the area. Meteorologists have been unable to identify the source of the strange electrical displays, but we will keep you informed of any developments. We're turning now to our regular programming.
It's that time of year where Halloween is right around the corner, and everyone's enjoying the spirit of this fun tradition. Most people are watching scary movies, playing scary games, and experiencing events that surround this holiday. It's pretty obvious that a lot of people on the internet are making reviews and showcasing these things, so I wanted to talk about an old game that many people aren't aware of and don't seem to highlight. To understand this game, we need to travel back to 1998. Half-Life was released and got a ton of people into PC gaming. It was immersive, full of action, cool weapons, unique alien designs, great AI that till this day is still fun to play against, and lots of other unique aspects. It also came with downloadable tools, so players who wanted to create their own maps and stories could, and then they could release them to the public. Though it's much more commonplace now, what with things like the Steam Workshop, back during this time it was amazing to be a part of such a giant community who were creating their own stories and worlds. Some even got so popular the creators were hired by Valve Software and became full-fledged games. Games like Counter-Strike, Team Fortress Classic, and Day of Defeat got their start on this engine. Most of these user-created mods were single-player oriented, but they were never as popular as their multiplayer counterparts. Example being when I say Gunman Chronicles, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
Thank you. You've helped to save my Xenome.
But this video is dedicated to one specific horror-oriented mod. Skip forward a bit to 1999. I bought an issue of PC Gamer, and it came with a CD with a bunch of demos on it. Normally, I'd quickly go through these demos and then stick them in a box to collect dust, but I noticed there was a Half-Life mod on this specific disc called They Hunger. Keep in mind at this time I'm a young teenager and I had no idea what a mod was. Aside from Half-Life, the only other first-person shooters I had played were Doom 2 and GoldenEye. I figured out how to install it and was immediately blown away by the uniqueness of this mod. I had gone from the alien-ridden Black Mesa facility to the creepy valley known as Rockwell. In the game, you play as a writer on vacation who's looking for inspiration for his new book. Upon driving through the valley, your car is hit by a lightning bolt and you crash into a lake. You abandon your vehicle and make your way through some eerie catacombs and back up to the surface. The quiet ambience suggests something is very wrong. I remember the first time I played this, I was sitting at my PC late at night in the dark, with wind howling against my window. Hearing some odd noises coming from a nearby church, you investigate only to find that the dead are rising. The game quickly becomes a survival horror game as you find a pistol and an umbrella.
An umbrella?
It sounds crazy, but it's more handy than you think, since it seems to be made out of titanium. This was a genuine total conversion mod, jam-packed with custom-made resources. Hearing the zombie moans and groans in the distance was frightening, knowing soon that you'd be swarmed by them. Even the cops, who were investigating the phenomenon, had been killed and turned.
Guys, you were supposed to bring me some burgers 2 hours ago. Guys?
Somehow they still managed to fire their weapons though, which was pretty corny, but added to the challenge. The voice acting was really hit or miss. The male zombie noises were creepy, but sometimes the acting was just cringe-worthy.
All right. I'm not coming with you. All right. I'm not coming with you.
I'm unsure if they were made that way, since the whole game seems to mirror old classic horror films and B-movies from the 1930s through the 1960s. Even some of the sound effects were copied from some of the well-known classics. The settings were what stood out the most. There's a lot of ambience and variety to them. Even the lighting and shadows were good for the time. In the first episode, you start out in a graveyard, head through a swamp, then a volcanic canyon, and then you travel by train into a zombie-infested town before being captured by a zombified sheriff who seems to command the undead horde. The second episode had you escape, go through more of the town, through a sewer system, then you make your way to an insane asylum and find that a deranged doctor is experimenting on his patients and is the cause of the outbreak. You go down into his laboratory and find him creating stronger Frankenstein-like zombies. By this point, I'm sure it's obvious what he's doing: create an undead army and take over the world. You fight your way out of the area while meeting victims and minions of his, but then you set the place ablaze and blow it up, including the insane doctor, using a giant canister of flammable liquid. The third chapter was the weakest and cheesiest, though. You somehow end up surviving the ordeal and wake up in a local hospital. You're pretty lucky since you awaken while the place is being ransacked by the undead. This was the best part of the episode for me since the ambience was so subtle and scary. You end up crossing the valley again while scrounging for supplies in random villages, and then make your way back to the destroyed mansion and insane asylum. You find yourself backtracking a lot, which is kinda lame and just feels attached to make the playtime a little longer. But the military eventually shows up and, in true Half-Life style, starts killing everything on sight. Eventually you're fighting them, then zombified soldiers, then crazed undead chickens and oxen. In the end, you find a survivor who flies you away in a helicopter, but not before you fight the doctor, who somehow is turned into a cyborg. The final battle involves an aerial shootout with the sheriff you met earlier in the game. When you beat him, you fly into the sunset in your damaged helicopter. It's beyond cheesy, but the fighting in this episode was really fun and memorable. The whole episode seemed to quickly evolve from traditional horror to a fast-paced action game. It was fun to play, but looking back it just seemed to lack the same polish as the previous two episodes. Even the new weapons were more over-the-top than the slick 1950s feel of the originals. Either way you look at it, the series ended on a fun note, and overall everyone who played it immediately became a fan. My friends and I continued to watch Black Widow Games, who were the makers of the series, pretty closely. They released some cool skins and small mods here and there, but in 2005 they announced they were working on They Hunger Lost Souls, a mod for Half-Life 2. My friends and I were really excited by this announcement, and through the time span of a few years, they slowly tantalized us with new screenshots. It looked fantastic. Our hopes were high as we waited for its release. But then, nothing. 2008 came and went without any new updates. Fans were confused on what happened, but we all slowly forgot about it as another year passed. A few years later, I had replayed the originals and started doing a bit of research trying to find some more information on what exactly happened and why the source game had turned into vaporware. I went on a wild goose chase over the internet trying to contact Neil Mankey, the author of the game, but it was as if he disappeared off the face of the earth. His email addresses didn't work, and nobody on the main studio's site replied to me. There were rumors all over saying Neil had to quit the mod due to some health issues. Fortunately, after doing a bit more research, I was lucky to contact one of the old leads of the game, and he sent me this email.
Last I heard, Neil was okay, although it's been a while. I stopped working on the project as I felt that Neil's heart wasn't in it anymore, which pretty much killed my enthusiasm for it, to be honest. Einar Saukis, the lead coder, was hard at work on it for a while after I left, but I think he eventually gave up on it also. I can't blame him, really. It was a bit of a shame since Neil had gotten quite far along with the project in terms of concept and level design. It just needed a team of good people to come in and give it an overhaul on the visuals and some much needed polish.
Part of this video is dedicated to finding Neil. Does anyone out there have any information pertaining to contacting him? Does anyone know him personally? Is he okay? Neil, if you're watching this, please email me. It's been over 15 years since Half-Life came out, and surprisingly the mod community for the game is still fairly strong. There's a mod called Sven Co-op where you can actually play the first 2 episodes of They Hunger with your friends, along with a few other They Hunger inspired maps. You may have heard of a horror game called Cry of Fear. This game was built on a modified version of the old Half-Life engine too, and it still looks pretty damn good. It just proves it was and still is one of the best mod communities ever formed. Does They Hunger still stand up to the same standards as it did back in the day? Many may say it hasn't aged too well, and that's completely fair considering what type of games we have now. But that does not change the fact that it's a great horror adventure story full of corny aspects, and it's worthy of not falling into the darkness of vague games and mods. Though nowadays the gaming community probably overlooks it a lot, maybe in the future someone will take a stand, resurrect the series, and make a new They Hunger episode. I hope I'm not the only one that wants that to happen. In the meantime, enjoy the scary games and the movies we have now, but never forget the classics. One day in the future, you may replay the current generation of games and get a fantastic sense of nostalgia, as some of us do with They Hunger. Make sure you have a great time playing them, but above all, have a great Halloween.
The pain in which you writhe, for you have fed something rotting. You are what I eat. much flesh, so much meat. With my hands your skull I will beat. Leave your carcass in the street.